Welcome to my channel. This is an indication of some of the things that I cover on a regular basis in my videos. If you haven't already subscribed, please feel free to do so, and don't forget to click the little bell so that you'll get notified of future videos. Please feel free to share my videos on your social media, and I hope you enjoy the video which follows. As the title indicates, everybody, I'm going to try making currant tea scones. I've made scones by many different methods over the years. This one is out of this cookbook that I have had for a long time. Hasn't been off the shelf in many years. I got looking at it, and the recipe for currant tea scones sort of interested me, mainly because of the method, not so much of as the ingredients. And I'm quoting from it here. It says, the technique of making these slightly flaky scones is a little like making puff pastry. The dough is pressed out, rolled up to create a layer effect throughout. And you'll see what I mean, hopefully, as I go on here. Whether or not it works or not, I don't know. I've never made them before. The ingredients are 3 cups of all-purpose flour, a third of a cup of sugar, a tablespoon of baking powder. There would also be a ½ teaspoon of salt, which I've eliminated because I am using 6 tablespoons of salted butter, and it calls for unsalted butter. 3/4 of a cup of currants, and a cup and a quarter of milk, cream or buttermilk. I'm using milk. Also be an egg wash goes on them before they go in the oven. Let's start putting this together. Well, the first step is to combine the dry ingredients. 3 cups of all-purpose flour, a third of a cup of sugar, and the tablespoon of baking powder, which seems like a lot. This was a Christmas gift, the first time I've had an opportunity to use it. Looking forward to using it. Thank you, Gigi, if you're watching. I will really enjoy it, I'm sure. From King Arthur Flour. It's a dough mixer, or whatever you want to call it. It can be used for many things. The next step is to rub the butter in. I've cut the butter into little cubes. Very cold. I prefer to do it with my hands. You can use a pastry cutter, but I find the pastry cutter just gets all gummed up with butter. So if the butter is nice and cold, you don't have to worry about overheating it when you're doing it with your hands, or do it quickly enough. I'm finding all the cubes. I don't seem to see any that I haven't attacked yet. That will do. Add the currants. Remember making scones once and doing a video and said that I liked mine with currants or raisins. Well, there were some real scone critics out there who said, no, never, that is not scone if you add those. Well, sorry, it's what I like. I'm glad to see that this recipe has some currants in it. And now the cup and a quarter of milk. I like this, it really mixes things well. Well, I will clean off some of the other bowls and things here and get a little flour on the pastry board and move on with this. sort of bring it together and knead it a couple of times, but not too much. You don't want to toughen it. Now you try to press it out, or roll it out, I may end up using a rolling pin too, into a rectangle that's roughly 10 inches wide and 15 inches long, or thereabouts. It still has some parts that haven't been completely incorporated there. See lots of butter in it. That's good. That will help to make it flaky, I guess. Now, here comes the interesting part. If it works. You roll it from the long edge, which mine probably isn't quite 15 inches, probably closer to a foot, I guess. Roll it up from the long edge. And then you fold it over on itself, if I'm understanding the instructions properly. And you roll this out again to make your scones. So that has created a lot of layers in there, sort of like you would do if you were making a puff pastry, layers of pastry and butter. Not quite the same, I don't think, but and this makes quite a delicate little 2-inch scone is what they're suggesting, so I'll get a biscuit cutter out and get a baking tray ready and be right back. I think my biscuit cutter is about 2.5 inches, but it will have to do. And I don't know how true it is. I'm using this, it has either a fluted edge or a straight edge. I've used the fluted edge before, and someone commented that they would rise better if you used the straight edge. This recipe says to use either one. So I'm going to try the straight edge. I do know that you want to go straight down, as I mean pressing straight down. You don't want to twist it. The oven has been preheated to 450 degrees Fahrenheit. There's a bit of time yet before they go in. They get an egg wash, as I said, and allow that to dry for 10 minutes. Then they get a second egg wash. It also says that this recipe works very well if you have to press it back together again and make more scones. I may discover what that's like with a second tray. I hate to waste the scraps. I'll try to make a few extras. With the leftover bits. Well, I'll get my egg wash ready and be right back. The egg wash is just 1 egg with a pinch of salt. Well beaten to combine the yolk and the white, and then just put on with a pastry brush. I've egg washed many times in the past, but this is the first time I think that I ever did a, well, I guess I've done second coats before, I can't think of it on croissant, but I don't often see a recipe that says to use a second coating to let it dry in between, but that's what this one says to do, so that's what I'm going to do. So, see you in 10 minutes time. Well, I must have done something right. You can see part of the tray of the second ones that I put together out of the scraps. Altogether I got 20 scones, and that's what the recipe says you would get, is around 20, so I must at least have my sizes close to what they were talking about. I rarely make anything that comes out the way that the recipe says. You're going to get 2 dozen, it says, and I'm lucky if I get a dozen. So that much is pleasing anyway. Getting their second coating of egg wash. And they bake, as I said, at 450 degrees. It says for around 15 minutes. Watch it closely in the last 5 minutes or so. You don't want the tops to get too dark. So I'll bring you back when these are ready to come out of the oven. Well, they certainly rose nicely. And they are, I don't know, maybe a bit darker than I'd like to see them on top. Mine have been in about 12 minutes, and I thought if I left them any longer, rather than dark, they would be burnt. So I will get these off onto the cooling rack here and get batch number 2 in the oven. Pleased with the rising, and I think I can see what they mean by the flaky layers. You can definitely see layers in there because of the way it was rolled out. Where has this recipe been all my life? Sitting on a bookshelf. Seriously, I've probably had that book for 35 years or more. Uh-oh. I'll throw them around. Well, they're all out of the oven now. This is batch number 2. I think batch number 1 might have risen a bit better, but they still look pretty good. This one here is the last little bit of pastry that was left. Waste not, want not. Well, the tea is steeping, and I have a couple of these from the first batch on a plate in the dining room to try, so I'll meet you in the dining room. Well, I'm very impressed with how high they rose. I don't think I've made tiny scones like that shot in the air like that, so I think there is some truth to the description of the method there. And this is clotted cream. Remember my video from sometime last summer when I made clotted cream? This is some of the same batch. It's been in the freezer. It freezes beautifully. And with that, I'm having a bit of my homemade blackcurrant jam. I won't get into the English debate of which goes on first, the clotted cream or the jam. They are very good, very light, fluffy. I think perhaps my go-to scone recipe from now on. Been sitting here on a bookshelf all along, I didn't know anything about it. Angel is in the doorway. I'd like to try one, wouldn't you, Bob? Come here. I did a little clip of Angel enjoying a piece of the scone, and she wasn't in the video, so we'll try this again. Try the scone, Dave? I think, as we say in this video here, Angel says they're Angel approved. Most anything that I'm eating is Angel approved. Well, it's a very easy scone recipe. Maybe my go-to scone recipe from now on. Thank you very much for watching. I hope you'll give it a try. I won't be able to write it out down below. There isn't a link, and if I write it out down below, that is a copyright violation from the publishers of the book. So I have to take some notes, I guess, from the ingredients and whatever as I put it together there. Thank you very much for watching.